Happy Monday evening, anyone, and welcome back to the Trident Therapy podcast. I'm Nick, and I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Jalen, and in today's episode, we'll be recapping the Mariners' very underwhelming trade deadline, and we'll be analyzing their potential 26-man roster heading into the final part of this season.
Yeah, so let's start with the first trade. The first trade that the Mariners made was sending away Luis Castillo to the Chicago White Sox for reliever Sir Anthony Dominguez, AAA outfielder Nolan Jones, and catching prospect Boston Smith. And I guess Jalen, what are your thoughts? And if you had to give a grade on this trade, what would it be?
Yeah, first thought was sadness, really. Just because Luis Castillo has been one of my favorite manners, the classic fist bump, walking off the mound, the long dreads, the just the consistency, really. He's been one of the most consistent starting pitchers for this decade and across the league. He's rocked one of the lowest ERAs in Mariners history, and he's certainly one of the 5 to 10 best pitchers to ever rock the Mariners uniform. So I would owe a lot of gratitude to him. But honestly, this trade was, from a baseball standpoint, the Mariners couldn't have done any better. The only negative thing about this trade is like the non-baseball standpoint, like what he meant in the clubhouse, the chemistry amongst the starting pitchers and the other players that Luis had close relationships with. But from a baseball standpoint, I would give this trade like B plus. Honestly, they couldn't have done much better. They cut off, I believe, like 30 to 40 million dollars from this trade, and they got back a mid leverage reliever, which the Mariners need. And so when we're down one or down two, Dan Wilson doesn't have to punt the game by throwing in Michael Rucker. And Dominguez is also a strikeout guy, which the Mariners need coming out of the bullpen. And don't know much about Boston Smith from his profile. He looks like a good good solid catching prospect, a lot of power. Um, Nolan Jones looks like just outfield depth. Can never have too much depth, and with Rayleigh injured, I guess it works out kind of. But yeah, I would give this trade a B plus. Sad to see Castillo go. Excited to see what the Mariners could get out of Dominguez. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. It's really sad to see him go. I think when I started watching this team, I remember the first trade I saw was the Mariners acquiring Luis Castillo. And then you always think about the 2022 ALDS didn't go as we wanted, but he did pitch an amazing game against the Astros before that comeback unfortunately happened. And I think just like being able to watch him in person, even and throughout the playoffs last year, it was just nice to see that even though his play had declined, there was nice. You could see that like some moments he still had it. So sad to see him go. He was kind of like the vet present in that pitching room. We have a pretty young rotation, so it's sad to see him go. But in terms of like talking about Mariners club and how they are impacted from this, I think the biggest thing, like you mentioned, Jalen, is the cash considerations. I think I'm very surprised that the Mariners were able to snag three potential players and dump his contract off as well. I think that's a big win for the GM, and I think well, it does. Obviously, you are losing a. You could have used. I know the discourse has been that you could have used Castillo in the bullpen as an arm for the rest of the season, and then DFA'd him or released traded him then. But I think better do it now. Kind of adjust midseason. You don't want to like have him throughout the bullpen doing the rest of the season, and then kind of just get rid of him at the end of the season, or even like bench him before the season even ends. So I think this was a kind of a it's kind of ripping the band-aid off, but I think it had to be done this kind of way. And I think I think it's good to see Sir Anthony Dominguez, but I remember when the trade broke, the first like clip was like a bunch of Mariners fans just like posting the grand slam he allowed
Yeah.
against Gino last year, and it's like, oh, I didn't know it was that guy, uh, um, but yeah, no, I'm excited to see what he can do. Hopefully, it's not another Caleb Ferguson thing, who actually also did get traded again today, but hopefully it's not another Caleb Ferguson thing. I think he has potential to be a pretty solid arm, especially when this bullpen's dealing with injuries right now. And then even last night you saw against the Twins that Ferrer and Bizardo didn't play too well. So nice to have some support here. And then of course, like you said, having depth in the outfield is always helpful. You never know what can happen, especially like players like Luke really just suddenly going out for the season, and you already have kind of thin there. Julio got banged up a bit ago and has played at his standard, but we need him to kind of like explode now. And yeah, so pretty good. I would also go with like a B plus for that type of range, just because you did what you needed to do, and I think that was just dump the contract, and anything you got out of that was just a bonus in my eyes.
Hmm. Yep. And to kind of like talk about Dominguez and our bullpen before we move on to our second trade. It's kind of I would say this deadline has been disappointing. We talk about if we go back to last year, they were rumored to get Johan Duran, right? Who's at the time top free closer in all of baseball, and they didn't want to give up enough, and they didn't want to, and their pivot was Caleb Ferguson, right? Who was just shit, and uh, they didn't really get another reliever outside Dominguez. I mean, I think they called in on Mason Miller, but uh the Padres wanted Kate Anderson, which was completely understandable. But to go from wanting Mason Miller to not getting another reliever at all, that's honestly just disappointing. I mean, we look at the previous acquisition periods, especially at the deadline, right? Especially if we go back to last year's deadline. Yeah, they got Gino, yeah, they got Naylor, they filled in their infield holes, but once again, it's like you're doing enough to get to the ninth inning. You still need the final like 3 outs. Like go get those outs, right? Or like just put the cherry on top. Just finish it out. Like you're so close, and the Mariners just don't want to like solidify themselves, especially if they say their goal is to win the World Series. Well, the Dodgers they just got Scooble. Did they really need Scooble? Not really, but they had the assets to go get Scooble, and they did, right? And in terms of another bullpen reliever, did you need one? Yes. Did you have the assets? Absolutely. Like, how many of these prospects are one gonna turn out and two gonna make the major league roster? Because you already have like your middle infield locked up for the next 5 plus years. You have Naylor 5 plus years, Julio for his entire career basically, Cal for the next 4 years with Stevenson coming up. You have Canzone for 4 years, right? There's like positions, right? How many of these prospects are going to fill in free positions? Let go of them. Go get another reliever. But I swear, if Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander do their classic, like, acquiring Matt Brash from the injury list is technically the same as a deadline deal, it's just gonna piss me off because, like, you just can't rely on those guys being healthy. And, like, we've seen how volatile our relievers have gotten, especially with Munoz at the start of this year and Freer and Bizardo recently. You still need another leverage arm, and you didn't really get it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that next trade.
Yeah, so the next trade, the Mariners acquired Taylor Ward, outfielder from the Baltimore Orioles, and in exchange they gave up bullpen reliever Alex Hoppy and minor leaguers Brock Moore and Harrison Creeling. And Hoppy saw some time in our major league roster. So glad I don't have to watch him anymore. But Brock Moore, intriguing piece. And Harrison Creeling, I don't even know. I guess he was just a throw-in. So thoughts on this trade, Nick?
Yeah, immediately I think it's always great. Kind of what we've been saying today is always great to get another outfield person. Doesn't matter if depth, but yeah, I think it's a move that needs to be made. There's been injuries, and like I think left field has been kind of a hole here this year. But um, kind of adding, I like the trade. I think just specifically talking about the trade, I think I'm glad they didn't give up any like top prospects. They didn't throw in Kirby or Anderson Hancock, nothing like that. So those guys are still on the team, and yeah, you got rid of players that I don't really think had much value on this team anyway. So and you got a player that you can use. So that's a plus. I think the trade itself is if I had to give it a grade, I'd give it a B. Just because it's not like Taylor Ward is a star, but he can definitely help his team. And I guess I'll let you say your thoughts, and then I'll kind of show my criticisms with this kind of whole trade deadline and like kind of why I don't think this is enough.
Yeah. Thoughts on this trade? I honestly give it A because like it's a rental, and I'm so glad that especially last year and then going on this year, the Mariners are actually not hugging their prospects. I mean, they still are, but they're not hugging their like lower their prospects. And I'm glad they dipped into the rental market again because if you're a team that's on the fringe of maybe making the playoffs, on the fringe of like selling or whatever, just like acquiring a rental never hurts. And this is a rental that's I think he projects to be our leadoff hitter. He mashes lefties. He can hit righties. High on base. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just a really good trade, really good fit, and I think it just deepens our lineup. And maybe the Mariners don't have to um play Cole Emerson like as much as they are, or Cole Young as much as they are now too.
Yeah, yeah, I'd have to agree. That's a fair grade too. Yeah, I think kind of getting into it's the theme of this episode is the trade deadline, and I think one thing that Jones already said is that yeah, it's just disappointing to see kind of needs not be met and like kind of not doing enough because you went out and only traded for one person. Like sure, you got some people with Luis Castillo, you dished him out, but I think you can already sense a kind of different energy to this year where last year you kind of saw like Mariners had the chance to win the division. They had the chance to go get that second seed, go get that bye in the playoffs. And at the trade deadline, you could sit there saying, "Hey, what are our needs? Okay, we need first baseman. Okay, we need third baseman. Okay, oh, hey, Gino's hitting 40 home runs. Let's get him. Obviously the reliever thing was a huge disappointment. Caleb Ferguson cost the Mariners games and wasn't able to be used to the thing that they bought him for. But you saw a bit of it energy. You saw the fans kind of motivating the front office. Obviously, we don't know how it actually happens and how the cookie crumbles, but you saw Josh Naylor. Okay, we got Josh Naylor. Okay, yeah, go get the other Diamondback infielder. Go get him. And I think this year it's like either the fan base is just kind of defeated, where it's like, okay, what's gonna change this team? Because like right now the players aren't doing enough. So either the fan base has been defeated, or the front office has just said, hey, this is kind of just like a we'll do our bare minimum and get a bat, but we're not gonna make a run for it. We're not gonna push boundaries. Even though it was claimed to be go for a year, it's a kind of different in baseball, not exactly similar to the NFL, but it's a go for a year. You were one game away from the World Series, and I think the thing that like I will keep on reiterating is that things like this don't give me confidence that this team is even trying to get to a World Series because if you truly wanted to, you would kind of unlock the gates on your prospects. You would say, okay, we're shopping someone, so we need a star, and I think you just never see that from this team, and I think it's going to take either management change or some other kind of revolution to realize that like hey, the teams that go risk and the teams that like spend hard actually are the teams that win. Like obviously we can use the Dodgers as an example. They just throw money at everything, but they are also very active. It's not like they just like acquire a bunch of people. It's not like they just like get everyone through free agency. They've also made trades, and I think when you have a good combination of that, you don't have to be the Dodgers because we God knows what's gonna happen with that like salary in the next year and stuff, the salary cap in the next year.
Mhm.
But you still have to be proactive and you have to be you have to take advantage of the situations in your division. This is still a weak AL West and it's still a weak AL. And I think these moves don't motivate me at least. I that's just what I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It's just not like motivating or just like taking advantage of the weak AL West. I mean, like especially last year, it's like that you give up Harry Ford for Jose Ferrer. You were trying to trade him at the deadline. I mean, you gave up Harry Ford for Jose Ferrer in the winter, right? But you were trying to trade Harry Ford at the deadline. but you didn't trade him at the deadline. You could have just offered Harry Ford for Jose for right there, right? It's just like last year, I was like, I really wish the manager just traded for that leverage guy because it's a weak AL. I always thought the AL's never gonna get this weak, but well, we look at it this year, it got even weaker, and uh, the I don't think the manager should like take this opportunity for granted, especially like the Rangers were thinking about selling at the end. You're more talented than like the Astros or whatever, but I just I don't know. It just makes me mad, just like you, and it
Yeah,
doesn't really make sense because you have all the prospect depth you would ever hope for. What's the whole point of having this farm system if you're not going to use it to help you win games?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But I will end the deadline thoughts on one thing though. Um, as much as like me and Nick can get mad about the Mariners not like capitalizing on this opportunity and going all in, the team the talent I would say is still there to win the World Series. It's just your stars aren't playing like stars. Julio's still hitting 250 on the season. Cal is hitting on under 200, right? And Naylor's OPS isn't even above 700, I think, right? JP hasn't been healthy. Donovan hasn't been healthy. If these guys are healthy, and if our bullpen arms are healthy and performing, I don't think there's much stopping this team, especially if Sloan or Anderson do get called up into the bullpen.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. That's a great outlook. I think yeah, it's important to still appreciate that. Hey, we do have a star-studded roster. We just need them to operate, and yeah, we can blame Dan Wilson. We can blame management, but yeah, players also need to do their job, and they also know they've been saying, yeah, we need to pick up our slack. We need to do what we need to do. We're paid to do, and let's do it. And for this the last episode, I said like it's gonna be hard if we go out and lose to the Rangers and Giants, and it kind of was like that. But the Dodgers game, that one first game, gave me hope. Even though they did lose the series, it still gave me hope because that's not a type of win you see this team go through. And the series with the Twins, shouldn't have been a walk off yesterday, but
Mhm.
I'm still glad the win happened and just build on this stack series. Don't go back to the patterns of win one, lose one, win one, lose one, and please don't keep on losing series. Let's establish a bit of a rhythm here and like see where August takes us. Yeah,
yeah, and I think like 3 weeks ago or something, Logan Gilbert talked about like how Dan Wilson's great at his job apparently, and how he loves Dan Wilson, and how the guys love playing for him, even though it certainly doesn't look like that through their effort and how they play. But if that is all true, then the guys should be smart enough that Dan Wilson's on the hot seat. I mean, the Mariners' 50-year celebration ends in a week. Let's say they're 2-5 in this stretch. The Mariners probably fire Dan Wilson. There's no point to keep him on, like because Dan Wilson, because if they were serious about winning, they would have fired Dan Wilson a long time ago. But obviously, they probably wanted him for the 50-year celebration because he probably was an ownership hire. Because we look at the way Scott managed the bullpen versus Dan, it looks like a very different philosophy compared to what the front office wants in terms of bullpen management, at least. And yeah, it's just the players, if they want to keep Dan Wilson as their manager, they're gonna have to play better too.
yeah, that's a great way to end. Yeah,
Yeah, and moving on to our last segment, I'll break down what's projected or what we think is going to be the projected 26-man roster and the lineup for the Mariners heading into the final stretch of the season. So this is assuming everyone's back from injury or most of them are. So leading off, I think the Mariners put leading off Taylor Ward, batting second Randy, batting third Canzone, batting fourth Julio, batting fifth Cole Young, sixth Rowley, seventh Donovan, eighth Naylor, and ninth, JP. A bunch of lefties in the bottom, but that's the way the Mariners built their lineup. JP can hit lefties. Donovan and Naylor are okay against lefties. Um, should be fine, I guess, with how great on base skills these guys are supposed to have and discipline. But really deep lineup, I think. Bench would probably be Garver as the backup catcher in September. I imagine Peretta would also get added. Robles in the bench, probably Cole Emerson on the bench, and then a utility guy could be Weston Wilson, Ryan Bliss, Mastrobuoni, Rivas, or Fairchild. If I had to pick, it'd probably be uh Weston Wilson, I'd say. And then rotation, Gilbert, Miller, Hancock, Kirby, Wu, one of the five best starting pitching rotations. I imagine in the playoffs, if we do somehow get there, Wu would probably come out of the bullpen unless it's a home game. He'd probably start. And I imagine once August 15th comes around, Kate Anderson doesn't have a he's gonna keep his rookie status for next year. Imagine they call up Kate Anderson, maybe get a couple of starts or in the bullpen, and same with Sloan. So I'd assume right now Davila would be replaced by Brash. Rucker would be eventually replaced by Vargas, then Anderson, and then Criswell would replace Michael Rucker or Josh Simpson, and then Sloan would eventually replace that. And we have Munoz, Brash, Freyer, Spire, Bazardo, and Dominguez. That's six established leverage relievers, and then that's Flynn and Anderson, the two best pitching prospects in all of baseball. And I think it's a really deep bullpen despite not adding what they needed. It's just like we've said in this podcast, bullpen needs to perform. Our lineup is deep, but they also need to perform. And, and any thoughts about our roster and what the season looks like projecting into this last part of the season?
Yeah, I think leave it in the hands of the players. I think you gotta just play like play with your ass like your ass is on fire, and like seriously, like just kind of like we want to see some gritty Mariners baseball, like that. I think my favorite patch of last season, obviously the walk off ALDS win is nice and all of that stuff, but I think my favorite moment of last season was probably the Victor Robles catch against the Astros to kind
Mhm.
of basically essentially seal the division away.
Yep.
And I think you don't like I feel like that energy has just not been there this season. And I think you need a moment like that. You need something to like kind of light a spark. And time's running out. So if it's gonna be if there was gonna be a moment, it would have to be really soon. And we need players coming back from injury. Like if he was coming back from injury there, and that's what he did, he performed. So I'm looking at you, Brendan Donovan. You were pretty good. Like you were pretty good to start the
He was our
season.
best hitter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the injuries have been a big thing, and it'd be a shame if like our biggest offseason acquisition would only play something like 30 games this season. We need him at third base, and yeah, let's just see where this team can go. Dan Wilson, I actually don't have too many complaints for you at the moment. You've done a halfway decent job over the last couple 2 3 weeks, but stick to what you do and make sure you don't make any boneheaded mistakes that have cost us games in the past. And back to the players, I think they get the sense of urgency. Time's ticking. They still our thing was that they had to win 40 out of their 60 games, and it's not
Yeah.
looking like that trajectory is going to be met so far. But turn around. You get a few sweeps, get stuff like that. You can definitely still do it. It's not impossible.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely still time around. We go back to 23. The Mariners were sellers. They sold Seawald and they shopped around JP, France, Teoscar. Didn't trade any of those guys, but they went on a hot August. Only lost like two games in August. We've seen how fast seasons can turn around. The Marlins went on like an 11 game losing streak after being the hottest team in the month of June. The Red Sox looked like sellers after the first 2 months of the season, and now they were buyers. They traded for Adley Rutschman. The Mariners can still turn things around. who they're floating around close to 500 when their starters haven't been themselves, their bullpen hasn't been themselves, and they still haven't seen second half Julio yet, right?
Yes, sir.
We just need 2022, 23, 24 Cal Rally, which was what this team was built for entering this season. We just haven't gotten that. I mean, with our lineup that I have that we projected, uh, it's so deep that struggling Naylor's hitting eighth, struggling Cow's hitting sixth. You have the emergence of Cole Young and Kenzone, and you have Taylor Ward hitting at the top of your lineup. It's just a deep lineup, a deep bullpen, deep starting pitching, and yeah, you just need to perform. There's just nothing really about it. We can complain about the deadline moves, about Dan Wilson, but I think if anything, the Blue Jays getting to, I think was it Game 7 of the World Series, right? And the Mariners almost getting to the World Series. You can win baseball with a bad manager, especially if your bullpen is that deep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all we have for you today. But thank you guys for watching episode 2. Stay tuned for what's to come, and hope you guys all have a great week.